Hello everybody, welcome back to another video in the 12 Days of Deltarune. Today we got another micro theory here, and it's about Image Friend, because I didn't buy in on the Image Friend is a cat hype train until it was far too late. So now I have to make up for it by connecting to an ancient theory I had that I didn't even believe in at the time. So here we go. Image Friend. Why cat? Could be the title of this video. So, this was brought up in a Reddit comment that I really should have found before this video. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description. I should, if I didn't remind me. Anyway, about how Mike could actually be, now that we know Image Friend is probably based on a cat, based on the sweepstakes, where we have all these cats that you can click on, and then if you click on enough of them, Image Friend shows up and, crashes the game. So it's a special cat, essentially. That Mike, when Spamton talks about Mike, could actually be Mike, which is a specific Japanese term for a specific kind of cat. The calico cat, specifically. And while it does have some connections to lucky cats, I don't see how that could really fit in Chapter 3. Actually, how does a cat in general fit into Chapter 3? Because it would make more sense to be in Chapter 3 than Chapter 4. After all, Spamton is foreshadowing this character in Chapter 2, so it would make a lot of sense if Chapter 3 followed up on that foreshadowing. But if that's the case, then why a cat? And yeah, there's that extra stuff that I put here in the text, which is that Spamton is an unused element in the game to be puppet. His attacks are puppet elemented. It doesn't actually do anything because there are no armors to protect from puppet damage. Really, the only thing we've got so far is the Sky Mantle protects from electric and holy attacks. So, Anyway, the sort of other side of the puppet element is cat. Every element has two sides. For example, chaos element has order as its opposite. So perhaps this was a hint all along that Mike is supposed to be a cat, or whatever, Mike, whatever. This could potentially, this is what I thought before I actually kind of got shot in the foot by Mike being a cat, is in reference to Noelle's cat petter's story in the news, or the sweepstakes, where she essentially talks about receiving a strange email that then becomes a strange cat in her cat petters game that looks like a peepus, and then we kind of connect it to Spamton from there. Seems like there was more to it than that, though. So, this connection was made, and I did say this in a video a while ago, but I wasn't sure how it would really connect. That Image Friend's little face here does resemble this specific image of the Cheshire Cat, specifically. Or the idea of the Cheshire Cat's face disappearing and just seeing its eyes and then its grin. That makes a lot more sense now that we know Image Friend probably is a cat of some kind. So this was definitely an intentional reference. And trying to tie this together with Chapter 3 somehow, how can this cat tie into a TV-themed Dark World? I was drawn to this quote. Because the Cheshire Cat, of course, from Alice in Wonderland, from Alice in Wonderland, says, "We're all mad here." And I was like, mad cat, mad cat. Mad cats! So back years ago, when I did my video about what the Chapter 3 secret boss could potentially be, I brought up the idea of a Mad Cat's controller, which if you don't know, you can see an image of it here on the screen, is essentially like a knockoff controller for a lot of game consoles from back in the day that would always be less good than the real controllers. And so usually, as I kind of note in this first sentence on the slides, this would be the default little sibling controller. The older sibling is going to use the real controller that comes with the game, and the little sibling, well, you can have the other controller. Although this could be inverted specifically in the Dreamer House because Asriel is just so kind. Would he really give Chris the less good controller? In which case, of course, if Image Friend is based on this controller turning into a Darkener, I mean, either way, they're going to have a deep connection to either Asriel, which, of course, Chris has a sort of severed connection with right now, or Chris, who Chris also kind of has a severed connection with right now. And it ties into the TV because, of course, the controller used to connect to something on the TV. It used to connect to probably the video game, the Super Smashing Fighters or whatever, or maybe the Mario game they talk about where Asriel dropped Yoshi into the pit and then had to go to the church and beg for forgiveness for killing Yoshi in a video game. Either of those cases, we've got this sort of foreshadowed. And it all ties into what I think Chapter 3's main theme is going to be. In Chapter 2, the main theme was essentially control, right? Queen was super controlling, and Spamton had lost control of his life. That this chapter could be about a broken partnership, specifically. I say broken relationships because it's more vague, and they're probably going to be different kinds of relationships. But specifically, a broken relationship between two people who are very close. Not necessarily a romantic relationship, but a partnership in that way. And I think that because of, for one, Toriel's going to be there. And we know one of the biggest things going on in her life right now is Asgore being annoying, and sort of getting over these feelings of the family being broken up, right? Asriel's gone to college, and Asgore is living in a flower shop. Susie and Chris also, there's potentially some foreshadowing of them having some sort of argument in this chapter, potentially maybe about Chris opening the Dark Fountain, with the cowboy outfits, where Chris seems to be dressed like an outlaw while Susie is dressed like a sheriff, sort of opposite of what you would expect maybe for their characters if they were to choose their own outfits. However, if they are feeling that way in this moment because they're having this argument about Chris opening a dark fountain and that's bad, then maybe that makes sense, right? And finally, yeah, it could tie into the Yoshi story. So maybe we know that Spamton and Mike used to be friends. And if that's true, maybe similarly to the Yoshi story, I mean, this is a huge stretch, but just hear me out. Mike also sacrificed Spamton in a similar way in order to get ahead, and it's all like a metaphor, you know? But yeah, that's it. That's the mini theory. Mike, or whatever the character's name actually ends up being, is a Mad Catz controller, and that's why they end up as a cat. I don't think it'll be specifically named as Mad Catz in the game, obviously, because that's a brand, technically. It'll probably be like Crazy Cat or something. But the idea is still there. It's a Cheshire Cat based off of a Mad Catz controller who has these feelings of inferiority. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you again for another Deltarune video tomorrow. The 12 Days of Deltarune. Bye.